I swear the amount of trains that drive through here is astronomical. The train's gone, so I can finally start. Hi guys, it's been several months since I did one of these videos, but I am back to do another try to solve an Agatha Christie mystery. It's September. September is my birthday month, and it is also Agatha Christie's birthday month. Our birthdays are a day apart. She was born September 15th. I was born September 16th. So since it's our birthday month, I wanted to go ahead and try to solve another one of her books. That train is back. I think that train went down the tracks and came all the way back and just to honk its horn. Just to choo-choo in my video. So the last time that I did one of these, I read Cat Among the Pigeons, which was a Poirot story, although he was barely even in it, but he shows up at the end. It's like, oh, nice of you to finally join us. This one is not, it does not have a detective in it, or it doesn't have like one of her famous detectives. So it's not a Poirot, it's not a Marple. Eventually I will probably do a Miss Marple and maybe a Tommy and Tuppence also. And I think I have an Ariadne Oliver one that I'm gonna read soon, so I might try to solve it too. I think it would be fun to do one of these like every few months, but we'll see. So it's been several months since I have even read any Agatha Christie, so this could go poorly. But the one that I'm doing today is Ordeal by Innocence. So there we go. I picked this up from the library today. Not a big fan of when they changed the covers to do the little, oh, now a limited TV series. It's like, I don't care. It's probably on some streaming service or something that I don't have, so I probably can't even watch it. But yes, Ordeal by Innocence is the one that we're doing today, and I'm going to take little notes and stuff and tell you all about it. So if you have not read this one before and you want to read it before I spoil things, because I'm going to spoil everything for this novel, you might want to do that and come back later and watch it. But if you have your own copy of it and you would like to read along and see if we come to some of the same conclusions, that would be cool. And you can comment and let me know what you thought of the book and who you thought the killer was, and see if it's the same person that I think it is whenever I get to that point, and that could be a while. So the last time I did one of these, I had back on my wall behind me, I had like my list of suspects and the victims and all of that stuff. I'm not using the wall for that today. I have a dry erase board that I was gonna use, but then I brought it in here and I was like, this is gonna be really awkward if I use it, so I'll just show you guys. So yeah, it's kind of big, and if I want it all the way in the frame, I have to be on this side of it, and I can't write with my left hand, so whoops. I guess I could like point things out, circle them, whatever. So I think I'm gonna just use this to take notes for myself, and I'll figure out some other way to show you guys who all the characters are and who I think the suspects are and stuff like that. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I haven't started it yet. I do unfortunately know who the victim is, because it says it on the back. I hate it when they do that. It's kind of annoying, but yeah, so I know some of the characters already from the back of the book, but that's okay. I'll find out more characters as soon as I start reading, which is gonna be right now, before my air conditioner turns back on and you guys can't hear me. Okay, so I'm a little into chapter 2 at this point. We have Dr. Calgary, Dr. Arthur Calgary. He is a geophysicist, and he is on his way, when it starts off, he's on his way to a place called Sunny Point to see the Argyle family. And the Argyle family is made up of Leo Argyle. He's like the head of the family, and he has some kids. He has Hester, he has Michael, who we have not met yet, and he has a son named Jack, who is dead, and a wife named Rachel, who's also dead. So also at the house there is Miss Vaughn, who is his secretary, although when he says she's his secretary, he kind of pauses before he says it, and I'm like, is something going on between him and Miss Vaughn? Because that seemed a bit sus. And then there's also Miss Lindstrom, and I don't really know what she is right now. She's like, I don't know if she's like the housekeeper or what, but she apparently looks like a nun, and she's homely with a face like a pancake. Why? That is so mean. Why would you do that? So Dr. Calgary gets there and he's like, I need to talk to the head of the family or whatever. I need to talk to Mr. Argyle. I have something important to tell him. So he goes upstairs and he tells him that he has something to say about his son, Jack, who is dead. He goes into what he knows about Jack, which is that he had a fight with his mother at around 6 o'clock on November 9th, and he left. And when he left, he was very angry, and he told her that he was going to come back and made some kind of a threat to her. And then later that night, she was found bludgeoned to death by a fire poker, and the poker had his fingerprints on it. Also, a large sum of money had been taken. He was picked up by the police in a different town, and he had the money on him. So he was charged with willful murder. He kept saying that he had a perfect alibi for it because he was picked up, he was out hitchhiking to get to this town, and he was picked up during the time of the murder, so he couldn't have committed the murder. But he didn't know what kind of car it was. He didn't know the driver and never got his name or anything like that. He just knew it was a middle-aged man. So the cops try to find the driver and the car, and they can't find him. It's in the papers and everything. They just cannot figure out who this mystery person was. So they're like, well, obviously he made it up. At the trial, psychologists tried to prove that he was always mentally unstable and everything. And he was sentenced to life in prison, but he only served about 6 months of it because he died of pneumonia in jail. The reason that the doctor is there is because he wants to tell them that Jack was actually innocent. Dr. Calgary was the guy who picked him up hitchhiking. And they're very mad at him because they're like, why didn't you tell anybody about this? It was in all the papers. You could have come forward. What's wrong with you? And he's like, well, okay, see, this is what happened. And then he starts telling his story and he goes off. He's like, well, I went to see my old nurse, and then I went to try to find this other guy that I knew because he has books or something that I wanted to read. And then I picked up Jack, and then this, and he's just all over the place. I'm like, I really hope that none of this has to be written down because I'm not going to remember it. But he went to the train station because he was catching a train to London, and he was there a little bit early, so he's waiting for the train, and he's like, well, I'll just go take a walk and grab some cigarettes or whatever. And as he's walking, he gets hit by a truck. And he manages to get up. All these people are like, oh my God, dude, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. He walks back to the train station. He gets on the train, and then when they pull into Paddington Station, he's passed out. He's unconscious. They take him to the hospital. He's got a concussion and he can't remember anything that happened. The last thing he remembers is that he went to the old lady's house, and he doesn't remember any of the other stuff. He's in the hospital for several days, and the whole time he doesn't get a newspaper, so he doesn't see that all the reports about the police finding the guy and everything and trying to find the driver. So he misses all of that. And then he goes to Australia because he's a geophysicist going on an Antarctic expedition, and he's gone for 2 years. So he misses the trial. He misses everything. And he doesn't realize that anything happened until he gets back. He has some specimens or whatever that he's trying to wrap up in newspaper, and he asks his housekeeper to bring him some newspapers. And he sees something about the trial in it, and he's like, oh wait, I recognize this guy. Where do I recognize this guy? We talked about eels. What the heck? And then it hits him, and he remembers, and he goes to he finds out who the lawyers were who did the case and everything, and he goes to them and explains what happened, explains to the police, and so now he's going to be pardoned posthumously, I guess. So Jacko is innocent, and now he's told his family, he's told the Argyles, and they're like, why did you tell us this? Because, okay, sure, Jacko was innocent, because they call him Jacko, which is annoying, but yeah, Jack was innocent the whole time. So who killed the mom? He didn't even think about that. He's like, well, I just want you guys to know that this guy was innocent, that your son was not actually the person who killed your wife. But yeah, he didn't even think, okay, but who killed her? So, oh geez, Dr. Calgary, I don't know what's wrong with you, man. So he's just left the house, and now they have to call all the other family members and tell them that Jack was innocent the whole time. This book is ridiculous already. All right, I'm up to chapter 6 now, so it's time for a quick little update. There are more characters. There are always more characters. So it turns out there are more children in the Argyle family. There's a daughter named Mary. Her last name is Durant now because she is married to a guy named Philip. Philip is an invalid because he had polio. There's another daughter named Tina who is biracial. It might make more sense if I go ahead and say that all the children are adopted. Mrs. Argyle couldn't have children and she wanted children, so she adopted Mary from some place in New York. And then during the war, they had a bunch of children come out because they lived out in the country. So a bunch of children came out and lived in their house on their estate to get away from all the bombings and everything. And some of them were orphans, and so she adopted them also. Mary, Michael, Tina, oh my God, there are so many, Hester, and Jack. Those are the 5 children. We found out that Jack has a widow who worked as a dance hostess, but nobody knew that he was even married until after he was like arrested and everything. And then after he died, she married an electrician. Don't know anything else about her. Also, the night of the murder, basically everyone in the family was in the house, and also Miss Lindstrom and Miss Vaughn. They were there too. The only ones who weren't there were Michael and Tina. Michael and Tina both live in cities that are kind of close by. I guess they still could have come in and possibly murdered Rachel Argyle, their adoptive mother. So Dr. Calgary feels really bad about telling them the truth because now they're all suspects, basically. So he's like, well, since I was the one who kind of brought this back on them, I'm going to try to solve it, even though he's not a detective or anything, but he feels like it's the right thing to do. So he's going to try to figure out who the murderer is so that the other innocent people will be able to go free and everything, instead of all being accused of being murderers, even though not technically, but you know what I mean. So we find out that there's a Dr. McMaster who is retired now, but he knew the family for years, so I think he's going to go talk to that guy. Also, the Argyles had a burglary a couple of years before the murder. They kept everything locked up and everything so that hopefully they wouldn't be burglarized again. So they also gave a nice little timeline about the night that the murder happened. So of course at 6 p.m. that's when Jack shows up, fights with Miss Argyle, threatens her, and leaves. At 6:45, Mrs. Argyle tells Mr. Argyle and Miss Vaughn about the threats and everything in the library. Just after 7 p.m., Miss Vaughn went home. 6:57 or so, Hester saw her mother alive, and then at 7:30 p.m., Miss Lindstrom discovers the dead body. And at one point between 7 and 7:30, Mr. Argyle thought that he heard the bell ring and the door open and close. So maybe someone came in, don't really know. Also, since they're looking into the family members, Michael that night he works at like a car dealership or whatever, and he was test driving a customer's car that night. So he easily could have just drove that car over to the house and killed her. All the kids had keys to the house, so any of them could have gotten in, including Tina, who we still haven't seen yet. But yes, we did meet Michael in this because he actually went to Dr. Calgary's. He went to his hotel room and was like, how dare you do this? Now anybody in my family could possibly be a murderer, and so he's not very happy about it. That's what we have right now. It's a lot of characters, a lot of possible suspects. It could be any of them. It could also be people who, were not there that night. Hester has a boyfriend named Dr. Donald Craig, so honestly, it could be him. Who knows? I think the only one that it probably isn't is Philip Durant, because he's in a wheelchair, and I don't know if he would be able to get to her and kill her unless he's like just pretending, and I don't see that happening. Also, yes, Mr. Argyle, Leo Argyle, and Miss Vaughn, there's something going on between them, and people are expecting them to be engaged soon. So did one of them kill the wife so that they could get her out of the way? Don't know. Also, there's no, none of them get any kind of financial gain because she was really big into philanthropy, so all of her money goes to all of these different charities instead of going to them, because she's kind of set all of them up already before she died so that they would be able to do their own thing. Even the housekeeper, although she's not a housekeeper, she was like a nurse or whatever. So yeah, there's no reason financially for them to kill her. They don't get any financial gain. And there's my air conditioner, so I guess that is my cue to go ahead and stop for the night. I may read a little bit more right before I go to bed, and I'll take some notes because it's what I've been doing, and I will update you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we can solve this thing. Alright, so I'm just a couple more chapters into the book, but I do have a few little notes, not really a lot, and then I'm gonna read like one little passage from the book. What did I find out? Dr. Calgary goes to meet up with the widow of Jack, and she is now married to someone else, of course, and her name is Maureen Clegg, and her husband's name is Joe, and he finds out that Joe was trying to get Maureen to divorce Jack before he was arrested, and also apparently Jack had a really bad temper, and he was a thief, and he's been that way since he was a kid. So there we go. We know that now. Also, Dr. Calgary goes to meet Tina, whose actual name is Christina, but she goes by Tina. She works at a library, and you find out that she never liked Jack. Doesn't really go into why, but she just never really liked him. Then he goes to see Dr. McMaster and finds out that Mrs. Argyle kind of smothered her kids. She didn't let them do anything really without her approval, I guess. She had to be in control of everything. And she was so focused on her kids that she kind of pushed Mr. Argyle aside. We also find out from Mr. Argyle that before she adopted Michael, he was homesick for his own mother, even though she was abusive to him. Mrs. Argyle couldn't figure out. She was just like, why does he still love his mother? Why doesn't he love me? Kind of thing. But yeah, so he never liked Mrs. Argyle, and neither did Mary, and not really sure about the others. Mr. Argyle couldn't be with Miss Vaughn, who he fell in love with. Then, of course, Donald Craig, the doctor who is dating Hester, went to see Dr. McMaster and told him that he's afraid that Hester is the murderer, and he can see why she would murder her mother because, like I said, her mother was very controlling, and he says that he'll marry her anyway. He just wants to know for sure whether she did it or not. But while he is there, Dr. McMaster says, "Oh yes, her death set them free, all right. Not only Hester, my boy, it set Leo free to marry another woman. It set Mary free to look after her husband in the way she liked, because apparently Mrs. Argyle wanted her to move in with them and take care of him there. It set Mickey free to live his own life in the way he cared about living it. Even little dark horse Tina, sitting in her library, may have wanted freedom." That's their motive. Their motive was freedom from the controlling Mrs. Argyle. But anyway, like I said, Donald says, even if she did kill her mother, I'll still marry her because I love her and everything. And the doctor's like, okay, but then you're going to be wondering every time, basically he says every time that your coffee is too bitter, you're going to wonder if she's poisoned it, or you're going to look over at the fire poker and wonder if she's going to bludgeon you with it, and she's going to see you looking at it, and that's not going to be good for a marriage if you're just constantly, worried that she's going to kill you because she's murdered before. So he's like, I don't think that's the best idea, buddy. But yeah, so there we go. I really don't know who it could be. Usually I have at least one suspect during all this, but I don't know. I haven't really zeroed in on one person that I think it would be. I kind of want to say that they're all red herrings, but I don't know. Yeah, so I really have no clue right now, and I'm getting pretty close to the halfway point. I'm about 42% of the way through, I think. I'm gonna keep going and we'll see. Hopefully I can get a little further tonight, but I am already starting to get tired. All right, so I'm up to chapter 17 now, or I'm about to start chapter 17. I'm getting through this really quickly. We haven't seen Dr. Calgary in several chapters. I think the last chapter he was in like chapter 6 or 7. I don't know where he's gone off to, but now we've got Mary's husband, Philip, who has kind of taken on the detective role. What the heck? Why are there so many damn detectives in this novel? This is crazy. Because we also have like the police commissioner or whatever. I forget what his name is. Like superintendent, something that starts with an H. I don't really care. But he's also working on the case. It's like, okay, there's way too many people trying to solve this thing. But we find out that Mary was not in her room from 7 to 7:30, which is right around the time that the mom was killed. And she told Philip that she was in the bathroom, but she didn't tell that to the police. at all, and Philip corroborated her story, so he also did not say that she was gone for during that time. So yeah, they both agree that it would be very easy to pin it on Lindstrom because she's not part of the family, so it'd be great if it was her, which makes me think that it's not going to be her. Then we find out that Mickey wanted to kill Mrs. Argyle. She just basically paid his mom £100. She was like, okay, there you go, you can have my kid now. But now she's dead and he feels lost without something to hate, basically. Mary is very possessive of her husband, and she could have killed her mother so that they wouldn't have to live with her because they had lost some money or whatever, and they were afraid they were gonna have to move in with, you know, her parents. And Philip seemed to be okay with it because he actually likes the dad and likes Hester, her sister, and everything. But Mary's like, no, we have to be by ourselves because apparently she has to have him all to herself. So she could have killed her so that she could get a little bit more money because Mrs. Argyle controlled the trustees that were giving them money, and they could ask for more, but she wasn't going to give them more. But after she died, they could ask for more and get it. So, okay. Could be a motive. Tina seems to be the only one who actually loved Mrs. Argyle. She actually was very happy to be a part of the family. She doesn't remember her original family and everything. And she was like, hey, I had a nice place to stay. I had food. I had a comfortable life. So why wouldn't I love it? So she seems to be pretty cool with everything. We find out that Jack did ring the doorbell when he first arrived that night because he lost his key. So maybe he did come back later and ring the doorbell, and that was the doorbell that Mr. Argyle heard like later in the evening. Don't know. And he also said that he got the money, because I was like, wait a minute, he had that money. He had the money in his pocket, and they knew that it was the money that she had gotten because there was some like address written on it or something. But he said that he got the money from his mother. And of course, that made me go on some weird tangent because I'm like, okay, well, maybe he meant his real mother since he was adopted. So what if his real mother? What if he found out who his real mother was? And maybe it was either Miss Lindstrom or Miss Vaughn, because those are the only two like women who might have been old enough to have had a kid. I was thinking maybe Miss Vaughn is actually his mother, and then found out where he was and went to get a job as a secretary to Mr. what's his face, Argyle. I can't, oh my God, it's late, I'm tired. Maybe she got a job with Mr. Argyle and then fell in love with him and everything, and maybe she gave the money to him because maybe he showed up again. I don't know, and maybe he knew that she was his mother. That's my working theory right now. I don't know. I could be completely out there. I don't know. Then we find out also that Tina thinks that Mickey was there that night, but she won't tell him why she thinks that. So why would she think that? I don't know. When they were giving their statements about everything that happened that night, Miss Vaughn, as she was leaving, said that a car had passed her. And so it's like, well, was that Mickey's car? Don't know. So also we have Donald, the doctor who is in love with Hester, tries to get her to confess the truth to him. And she's like, you're not even going to believe me if I tell you that I didn't kill her, are you? And yeah, that's pretty much true. He's definitely convinced that she is the killer. So even if she says, you know, well, I didn't do it, he's not going to believe her. That's bad for them. So that couple is not having a good time. And also Mr. Argyle and Miss Vaughn, who are supposed to be getting married at some point, they are both suspicious that the other one may have been the killer. And I don't think either of them were the killer. See, I don't know who the killer is. So I've got my board. I've got my board of characters. The thing is, I don't think it's I don't know who it is. Let's just say that. Let's just get that out of the way first. I don't know who it is. I'm gonna take off Dr. Arthur Calgary because I don't see how he would have anything to do with it, so I'm going to take him off the list. We have the Argyle family. Okay, so I don't think it's the dad, even though everybody's suspicious of him and of Miss Vaughn. I don't think it's either of them. I also don't think it's Hester, and I don't think it's Mickey or Tina, although I think at some point we're going to figure out why Tina thinks that it's Mickey, but I don't think it was him, even though he really hated Mrs. Argyle. I don't think it was him. Don't think it was Miss Vaughn or Miss Lindstrom. I don't think they had anything to do with it. Which I think I already said Miss Vaughn, but whatever. Dr. Craig, I was very suspicious of him to begin with. But the way he's been acting, I don't know if it's just an act or if he really does think that Hester is the killer. Yeah, so I don't know about that one, but I for now, I'm gonna take my suspicion off of him. And I also don't think it's Philip Durant. Maybe he could have gotten out of his chair, but I doubt it. So honestly, my two suspects that are top of my list right now are Mary and Joe Clegg, of all people, which is Jack's widow's new husband, because they knew each other. And I don't know, maybe he did something to set him up so that Maureen would leave him, maybe? I don't know. My other thing is that maybe it was Jack. Maybe somehow he did kill her and got away quickly enough and then hitched a ride. Maybe there was something going on with the time there. I don't know. But also, Miss Lindstrom kind of seems to be protecting Hester. So does she know something about Hester that Hester has done? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm so bad at this. I don't know. I got several little weird theories going on. Maybe one of them will be right. I don't know. Hopefully, as I get a little further into the story, I'll pick one and stick with it. It is already past midnight. It's getting pretty close to 1 o'clock actually. And I need to go to bed. So I'm going to do that. I might see if I can read another chapter before I go to sleep. But I will update you again tomorrow. And hopefully we'll be able to finish this book tomorrow and solve it. Well, hello there. Good morning. I guess it is time to get started reading. Yeah, first I've got to get coffee. I gotta wake up. And as soon as I get my coffee, I'll tell you guys what's going on. Coffee acquired, thank goodness. This mug is absolutely huge. And my neighbors are walking around upstairs, and there's also someone who has decided to start weed eating outside. So that's cool. Almost forgot my glasses, even though I don't need these to read, by the way. Just letting you know. Don't need them to read. This is to see things far off. Yeah, so that everything's not blurry. I have gotten further into this. I'm almost done. I've got about 40 pages left, so we're getting really close to the end. It's almost time for me to make my predictions, which I have a theory. I went to bed, but I lay there and I read instead of sleeping. And I got really into it. I was like, I can't just not do this on camera. So, and I wasn't going to film in my bedroom, you freaks. Okay, so of course Philip is doing his own investigation, but he wants to find out who it is, and he's going to keep it in the family. So, they'll know who it is, but they're not going to tell the cops, or at least that's his plan. So he keeps asking all of these questions to all the people around. And he goes up and he talks to Hester, and Hester is talking about maybe it'd be better if I just went and dove off a cliff and everything. And he's like, no, don't do that, Hester. But to stop her from doing all this and to make her feel better for some reason, he kisses her. It's like, that is your sister-in-law, sir. Okay. And guess what? Mary walks in and sees it, and she is pissed off. So, yeah, at that point I said some words, and I had a coughing fit also, because I was like, what is happening right now? Because I had to read that part again, because I was like, wait, what? He pulls her into his chair, just kisses her. I was like, excuse me? What is going on? So yeah, that happened. And after that, Hester hightails it out of there. She's like, I'm going to London. Sorry guys, I'm out. So she goes to London and goes to talk to Calgary, and she's telling him about, now she feels like she can't trust Donald, the guy that she's been dating. And I think there's a little something going on between Hester and Dr. Calgary. I don't know, but I think there is. So I think Donald might be out of the picture at this point, and I think she might end up with Arthur unless she dies, because I'm getting kind of worried for Hester and also for Tina. So Philip next goes to Miss Lindstrom and talks to her about everything, and he thinks that she knows who did it, because the way she's acting, it seems like she knows for certain who did it, not just, I think it was this person. No, I know who did this. Then she says something to him, and this is where it gets into my theory kind of thing. She said something to him about something about Mary. There's something about Mary. She says to him, you're asking questions. You're trying to find out things, and your wife does not want you to do it. She's wiser than you are. You might find out something you did not want to find out, or that she did not want you to find out. You should go home, Philip. You should go home very soon. I don't know. I think that it might be Mary. I think Mary might be the killer, which I know I said last night she was on the top of my suspect list, which means she's probably not the person who killed everybody, but she's the only one that I really suspect. Mary didn't want to stay in the house, not just because of her mom, but also because of Hester, because Hester lives there too. And I think that she could tell that Philip was attracted to Hester. She was jealous, of course. So I think she killed the mom so that that would get him out of the house and away from Hester. Because she keeps harping on him. She's like, I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to be here. We need to leave. I just think that she does not want him and Hester in the same house together because she's really jealous about it. Like I said, my prediction is that Hester will end up with Dr. Calgary instead of Dr. Craig. Sorry, I forgot what his name is. I had to look on the board. Unless she gets killed, because I'm really worried for her. And I think Miss Lindstrom is also worried about Hester, because it keeps talking about, she seems to be really worried about Hester, but people are thinking that she thinks Hester is the killer. But I don't think that's what she thinks. I think she's afraid that Mary is going to kill Hester, and that's why she's afraid for her. So I don't think she suspects her. I think that she's afraid for her life. Of course, I'm also worried for Tina. Tina's had a lot of screen time, a lot of page time, whatever, because Tina was there that night. She drove up and she saw something. She turned around and she left. She says that she changed her mind and didn't want to go in. So she left, but I think she saw something or somebody there that wasn't supposed to be there. I think she saw Mickey there, but I don't think she saw him doing anything. She just saw him there, and she's worried that he's the killer and that she's the only one who saw him, and she's kind of trying to protect him because I think she likes Mickey, but she never liked Jack. So I think she's like, well, if Jack takes the fall for it, then Mickey will be okay. I think that's what's going on with that. But yeah, somebody saw her car there because she has like a specific kind of car. She did basically say, yeah, I was there, but I changed my mind, decided not to go inside, and I left. Yeah, I think that she suspects that Mickey's the killer, but he's not actually the killer. She just saw him there. Maybe he was like doing something kind of sketchy because it is Mickey. So yeah, I think that's what's going on with them. I mentioned earlier that at one point there was a burglary at the house. I'm pretty sure that was Jack. I think he went in, he made it look like a burglary, and then he took some money because there was one point where he owed a lot of money to someone, and then suddenly he got it like really, really quickly. He got the money just in time, so I think he's the one who did the burglary. Yeah, I don't know if that really fits in with anything else, but I think that's like one little tiny mystery solved. And the reason that I'm afraid for both of them is because Mary comes into the room while Philip is writing a letter to someone. He doesn't have anything much written on it. He just has like one name on it. And she comes in and she's immediately like, what are you doing? Are you writing a letter to Hester? It's like, okay, woman, you need to calm down. So she's very, very jealous of Hester. And he's like, no, it's not a letter to Hester. Besides, she's in London. Miss Lindstrom got a letter from her saying that she was going to be there. So I'm like, why did you tell her that? Now she knows where Hester is. She can probably go find the address because she's like staying at a hotel in London. And she can go kill Hester. It's like, oh crap. So he tells her that, and I'm already worried for Hester. And then he says, actually, I'm writing a letter to Tina. Tina, who lives like 25 miles away. And Mary leaves, and she's like, I'm going to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh crap. That's what she said when I think she killed Mrs. Argyle, that she was in the bathroom. So is she going to take a bathroom break and just drive somewhere and kill someone? Because starting to think so. I really think that Mary's the killer. So that's what I think is going on right now. So right now, I'm afraid that either Hester or Tina is going to get killed, and that's going to be bad. And it's going to be Mary who did it. I don't want anybody else to die, you know? But this is an Agatha Christie. And usually there's more than one murder. Things are not looking good for some of our girls. Things have gotten out of control. Chapter 21 starts off. There had been nothing to tell Philip Durant that this day was different from any other day. He had no idea that today would decide his future once and for all. And so I'm immediately thinking, oh, well, obviously he's going to die. Guess what? He's dead. So apparently someone did not want him snooping around and asking questions and stuff because he's dead. So Mary left him in the room by himself, and he was writing something. Tina shows up because Philip asked her to come because he was going to ask her some questions and everything. So she shows up. Mickey is also there. They have a talk, which I will talk about in just a minute. She goes in the house. Miss Lindstrom is taking up some coffee and cookies to him, or whatever, some coffee and biscuits, excuse me, because he doesn't like tea, he likes coffee. And I'm immediately going, oh my god, that coffee is going to be poisoned. Because now I'm suspicious of Miss Lindstrom. which I wasn't before, but I will get into why very soon. She goes up there, which it doesn't show her. The first time we see her again, she is standing outside of the door. She's about to knock when Tina walks up. And so they go in together. Philip is dead. He's had like a writing pen, I guess, or something. I don't know if that's exactly what it was. Maybe it was something else. But he has something that has been pushed into his brain, basically, from the back of his skull. So he's dead. He's just lying there dead. So now it's like, okay, well, it wasn't Mary because she was the one who left him there. But I don't think it, now I'm not thinking it was Mary. Now I think it was Miss Lindstrom. She went in and, because why was she just hovering around the door? That's suspicious to me. So I think she went in, killed him, walked back out because she knew that Tina was coming, and then she's just standing there waiting for Tina to arrive so she can be like, oh, I'm just going in to give him his stuff. Then they go in together and discover the body. So I'm thinking it might be Miss Lindstrom, but let's go back because when Tina gets there, Mickey is also there. She finally tells Mickey what she saw that night, or what she heard that night. She got there, she wanted to talk to her parents because she was thinking of changing careers and she wanted their advice about it. So she was walking around when she heard two people whispering to each other, and she thinks it's a man and a woman. And Mickey asks, well, what did they say? And she says, one of them said, between 7 and 7:30. That's the time. Now remember that and don't make a muck of it. Between 7 and 7:30. The other person whispered, you can trust me. And then the first voice said, and after that, darling, everything will be wonderful. And she couldn't tell who it was. She just thinks it's a man and a woman because, of course, of what they were saying. So she immediately thought it was her dad and Gwenda Vaughn. I don't think that's who it was. She also thought it could have been Hester and someone. So it's like Hester and maybe Donald, or there was this guy that she was in love with while she was trying to become an actress. So it could have been that guy, which I guess is a possibility, but I don't know. I kind of don't think it was Hester. It could have also been Mary, but it wouldn't have been Philip because, of course, Philip couldn't walk. So Philip couldn't have been outside of the house. But then she saw someone, like a shadow of someone, walking away very fast, and she thought she heard a car start up at the end of the road. So that's why she thought that it was Mickey. So yeah, they went to the house together. But Mickey didn't go inside the house when they got there. Tina goes in to talk to Philip, of course. And Mickey goes and just wanders off somewhere. That makes me a little bit suspicious of Mickey, but I don't think it was him, because I guess maybe he could have climbed up somewhere and stabbed Philip while he was in the room by himself, but I don't really think that's what happened. Hester is also a possibility because Hester went up to her room and nobody knew she was there, and then she came back downstairs. But the thing is, when Tina and Miss Lindstrom walk out of the room, they walk downstairs, they're telling people that, Philip is dead. And then Miss Lindstrom goes to tell Mary, and Tina walks outside and sees Mickey walking up, and she goes to him and she faints in his arms. The doctor shows up because he's been called for Philip. They tell him that Tina has fainted, so he goes to check on Tina, and she didn't faint, she was stabbed by someone. Who stabbed her? Who stabbed Tina? I'm so confused. So they have to get her to the hospital so that they can try to save her life. Don't kill Tina. Come on. I actually like Tina. Which I liked Philip too, but he's already dead, so. So who stabbed Tina? Because Miss Lindstrom was right there with her right before she went to Mickey. I guess it could have been her. Mary wasn't around, so I don't think it could have been Mary. So unless there are two people working together, and I think that originally there were two people working together, because now I've changed my whole thing. Because I don't think Mary would have killed Philip. So maybe the whole jealousy angle, maybe she is jealous and that's why she doesn't want to be there, but it's not enough for her to kill anybody. Now I'm thinking, this is going to sound so dumb. Now I'm thinking that it was Jack and Miss Lindstrom. That's who I think it is. Because Jack had a tendency to find older ladies and he would kind of romance them so that they would give him money. And I think that he was romancing Miss Lindstrom so that he could get her to help him get money from his parents, from his mom, because of course they weren't going to do it. So I think he's been working on her for a while, and that's who met outside. That's who Tina heard. Okay, she says that she thought she heard a car start up at the end of the road. But maybe she didn't hear it start up. Maybe she heard somebody get into a car, because maybe that was Jack getting into the car. So I think that maybe Jack and Miss Lindstrom had a plan to kill her. Jack had to get away to get an alibi. So maybe that's what happened. Because it couldn't have been somebody who was there. Because the people who were there, if it was somebody getting in a car, I don't know. My brain hurts. So maybe that's what happened. And so he got his alibi by hitchhiking, and he knew it had to be at a certain time. That he would have to be away from there by a certain time, at a certain time. Then Miss Lindstrom killed him, and then of course, like I said, I was suspicious of her with the whole Philip thing, so maybe she killed Philip also. And I think she was the last person close to Tina, so maybe whatever she used to stab Philip, she also used to stab Tina as they separated, as they were walking away from each other, and that's when Tina went out and fell into Mickey's arms. I don't know. So that's my theory now. I know I was like so on the Mary train for a while. So it would have been Jack the whole time, and he wasn't innocent, but he had a partner. Because there was this one little spot that Dr. Calgary went to visit one of the older women. He was doing that too, that Jack was doing that too. The same thing that I think he was doing with Miss Lindstrom. Yeah, so I think that may be what was happening. Is that weird? Is that stupid? I don't know. Maybe it's stupid. But I'm on chapter 23, and there are only 24 chapters, so we're about to find out what really happened. All right, so I think that Arthur Calgary has solved it, which, good for him. He's doing better than I am. Oh boy. So we're about to find out. He's just gone off to Superintendent Hewish, who is the guy who's doing the investigation. Maybe it will give us a clue of whether I'm right or not. So the superintendent, he thinks it's Mickey, because he thinks that Mickey, when Tina ran out to him, that he stabbed her then, because he had the bloody knife in his pocket. But that doesn't mean anything. Somebody could have put it in there. At least that's what I think. They think that he climbed the magnolia tree, because they used to climb it as kids, and got up there and killed Philip, and then came back down the tree, came back down the tree, and then stabbed Tina, because Tina knew, or they think that Tina knew, that Mickey was there that night. I don't think it was Mickey though. I still don't see it. I still don't think so. I'm still going with Miss Lindstrom, especially since the superintendent thinks that it's Mickey, because usually if the cops think it's somebody, then it's definitely not that person. All right, so when Tina regained consciousness, she did say a few things. She did not definitely say who stabbed her. She said Mickey, then she said the cup was empty, then she said the dove on the mast. So I don't know what the dove on the mast means, but the cup was empty, as in the coffee cup was empty that Miss Lindstrom had, and she was just pretending to bring coffee. That's what I think. But I don't know what the dove on the mast means. Okay, so Hewish just asked, what is your idea, by the way? What does he think? Because he's like, this isn't what I thought. I didn't think it was going to be Mickey. I think it's something else. So he's like, he said, would it mean anything to you if I told you that it is my belief that this was a crime of passion? I think I'm right. I think I might be right. I think it may have been Miss Lindstrom. And Jack, of course. And Hewish says, there are a lot of passions, Dr. Calgary. Hate, avarice, greed, fear, they're all passions. When I said a crime of passion, said Calgary, I meant exactly what one usually means by that term. He says, if you mean Gwen Devon and Leo Argyle, that's what we've thought all along, but it doesn't seem to fit. It's more complicated than that, said Arthur Calgary. All right, so we're on the last chapter. It's all going down. They're all meeting up in the library, and Calgary has something to say. They're talking to Miss Lindstrom, and she was the only one who really, really blamed Jack and said that he was wicked, and she still thinks that it was all Jack's doing, or excuse me, Jacko's doing. I hate calling him Jacko. And then Hester says, but you were always devoted to Jacko. And she's like, perhaps, but I still say he was wicked. I'm like, yeah, because I think he talked you into killing somebody. That's why you think he's wicked. And so, of course, Calgary's like, yeah, but there's no way he could have done it. His alibi still holds. Oh, okay. And so Dr. McMaster, when he talked to him, he said that he wasn't surprised that Jack would murder someone, but he was surprised that he would have carried it out himself. He would have egged someone on to commit the crime. Okay, so now he has basically just accused Miss Lindstrom. He's like, you feel that, don't you? You still feel it, or you want to feel it. You feel that it was Jacko who killed her, not you. You feel it was under his orders and under his influence you did it. Therefore, you want all the blame to be his. Is this actually what happened? Or is this one of those, okay, we're gonna accuse this person, but it was actually this other person. I didn't mention this part, but I thought of it, and then it just completely left my mind. Her argument is, wouldn't I have tried to save him if I was in love with him and everything? Because, of course, he couldn't prove his innocence because Calgary wasn't there. So she's like, would I not have saved him? And he's like, perhaps, but for one fact. The fact that on the morning after the murder, his wife turned up. And when she showed up, like, it talked about it, and she was very adamant that it couldn't be true, that he couldn't actually be married. So, that makes sense. Oh my god, I solved it! I was right. Okay, so it was her. She did it, and it was for the reason I said. And yes, she stabbed Tina and Philip. So she told you that I stabbed her. I did not think she even knew. I was mad, of course. I was mad by then, mad with terror. It was coming so close, so close. Shall I tell you what Tina said when she regained consciousness? She said, the cup was empty. I knew what that meant. You pretended to be taking up a cup of coffee to Philip Durant, but actually you had already stabbed him and you were coming out of that room when you heard Tina coming. So you turned around and pretended you were taking the tray in. Later, although she was shocked almost into unconsciousness by his death, she noticed automatically that the cup that had dropped on the floor was an empty cup and there was no stain of coffee left by it. And then, of course, she slipped the knife into Mickey's pocket, which is what I said. Somebody could have slipped it into his pocket. Oh no, Mary is not happy. So they kind of just let her go. Miss Lindstrom go. She just walked out and they're like, it's okay, they'll catch her. She'll probably like take a train to London, but she won't get very far. So that's weird. I don't know why they didn't just, detain her, but whatever. And now everything else is starting to wrap up. I'm on like the last 2 pages. But, so Mary, of course, doesn't have Philip anymore. Oops. Whoopsie. But now Mr. Argyle and Miss Vaughn can get married. And also Tina is going to survive. And turns out Tina is in love with Mickey and Mickey's in love with her. So I guess they're going to get together, even though they're brother and sister, but not really. So that's kind of weird. And now he's just asked Hester what Dove on the Mast could mean. And so she says it's a song, a sort of lullaby song. And Miss Lindstrom used to sing it to him. But yeah, it was a lullaby that Miss Lindstrom used to sing to them. So I guess that was her saying that's who did it. And the cup was empty. And then it was kind of like a clue. So now it's just Calgary and Hester. And he's like, so you'll be happy now. You'll marry your young doctor and you'll settle down and you'll have no more of these wild imaginings and terrific despairs. Marry Don, said Hester in a surprised tone of voice. Of course I'm not going to marry Don. But you love him. No, I don't think I do, really. It's like, girl, I just thought I did. But he didn't believe in me. He didn't know I was innocent. He ought to have known. She looked at Calgary. You knew. I think I'd like to marry you. But Hester, I'm years older than you are. You can't really. That is, if you want me, said Hester with sudden doubt. Oh, I want you, said Calgary. What the heck? So, yeah, they ended up together. Like I said, I didn't make that prediction. I'm surprised. I'm surprised I actually figured it out. As soon as Tina said she heard 2 people, and it sounded like they were setting up an alibi, so I knew it had to be Jack, which meant that it could only be 2 people, possible people, most likely, and that would be his accomplice, and that would be Miss Lindstrom and Miss Vaughn, because they were both kind of older ladies, although Miss Vaughn wasn't really that old. So I knew it had to be one of those 2, and I didn't think it was Miss Vaughn because I wouldn't think that she would go for that. But yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, I think it's Miss Lindstrom. And then all these other little things started falling into place. So I figured it out. I'm so surprised and so happy. Yeah, so what did you guys think? Who did you think the killer was? Did you figure it out that it was Miss Lindstrom who had been working with Jack the whole time? Or were you like me at first and thought it was Mary who had done everything? I'll probably do another one of these. So yeah, let me know if you have any in particular that you would like me to do. I think the next one I may do is the Pale Horse because I already have it. And, why not? Since I already have it checked out, I might try that one. So you might have another one of these really soon. But that's it for now. I'm still in shock that I figured it out. But yeah, I will see you guys next time, I guess. Bye.